in a similar fashion, but what it is that helped me become a better person and a better man because I knew Scott. Scott was my best friend. Not just my brother-in-law, he was my best friend. If my wife was up here speaking, she would tell you about the bromance that took place over the last 20 years. We had many backpacking trips with his brother Jeff, Uncle Gary, who unfortunately is not here, because if he was, I would spend 5 minutes making fun of him. But we had a lot of very, very good memories. And as we were driving here today, we went by Del Mar, and where the horse races are, and I realized that's when I met Scott and Susie for the first time. And I don't think it's been probably 5 years since I've driven by that area. And of course, the emotions hit. And you can imagine, my emotions have been doing this. Scott has been gone for 15 days. And 22 days ago, he told me exactly how he wanted this to go. He wanted this. He wanted this. He wanted this live streaming to be going on, but to make sure that the right cameras were being used, and that the snack bar was going to be open. And please make sure that everybody was wearing the same shirt for the family, and we knew who represented who. Which is funny, because now you see signs all over the gym, which was Scott's idea. So, Scott was the one who taught me that it was okay for a man to cry. Before I met him, I was raised where men don't cry. He taught me it was okay. If you're a guy and you cry, it is a sign of compassion. It is a sign of being comfortable in your own skin. Okay? And when I first met him, and my wife told me that he was a cheerleader, my first reaction was, what? And then she said, yeah, but you have to meet his wife. And then when I met Susie, I'm like, okay, now I know why he was a cheerleader. I'm looking for my phone because I saw a plaque up there that I thought was just so perfect, and I have to read this for you. Sorry, it's going to take a few more minutes. Bear with me. Here we go. Yeah, my case is coming apart. 100 years from now, it will not matter what kind of house you lived in, how much money you had, nor what your clothes were like, but the world may be a little better because you made a difference in the life of a child. Now, we can stand up here and we can talk all about how I knew him as Scott. But Mr. C, Coach C, Chad, Scott, doesn't matter how you knew him. That only means something if you truly take what he taught you to the next step. And what do I mean by that? If you met him, and we're talking about hugs, and this was something that he made very clear to me, and we're not talking about a year ago, we're talking about right before he was ready to pass. Jason, please talk to them about the hug. And you've heard other people talk about his famous bear hugs. It drove him insane, the side hug. Right? And his cheerleaders know this. His students know this. The other thing that drove him crazy, the Hollywood kiss. So, something you can take from knowing Scott, Mr. C, Coach C, is the next time you want to give somebody a hug, hug them so they know that you mean it. Whether it's family, a friend. If you don't want to give a hug, don't. Don't do the side hug. But if you're going to do a hug, let them know that you mean it. So, who here knows that Scott loved money? Does anybody know what Scott was willing to do for money? Well, that's part of why Susie wanted me to come up here and talk to you, is I can tell you things about Scott that didn't happen here at Torrey Pines. He never broke the law, and as you know, Scott didn't drink. I mean, I think I saw him take one sip of beer one time, and he was drunk like 30 seconds later. And I never saw, he never did drugs. I mean, that was, so when he told you guys, cheerleaders, students, don't drink, don't do drugs, he was telling you he never drank, and he never did drugs. But we were backpacking, and it was probably about, I don't know, 40 degrees outside, and you can imagine the water was colder than the air. And his brother Jeff told him that he was cheap. This guy said, I'm not cheap, I'm just frugal. So Jeff pulls a $100 bill out of his pocket, and he says, if you jump into the river, which is ice cold by the way, naked, I'll give you a $100 bill. Within 10 seconds, he was butt naked in the water as his brother is holding a $100 bill. I think that was just his way of saying, I'm going to make sure that my wife and my kids have food on the table. Scott could dance like no other guy that I know, especially no other white guy that I know. He tried to teach me to dance, failed. He tried to teach Julie to dance, failed. And for our wedding, he basically just said, here's what I want you to do. Julie, you put your hands above his neck. Jason, you put your hands around her waist, and you guys just move side to side. Scott was my voice of reason, and I'm sure he was a lot of people in this room's voice of reason. He was the guy that I would call if I was having a bad day. He was the guy that I would call if I was having a good day. I'm a high school softball coach, so I deal with the teenage female mind every day, too. He would be the first person that I would call, and he would always just say to me, remember, they're still babies. There's still a need to teach. You're an educator first. So when he was coming down on you guys really, really hard, he was teaching. That was always his purpose, was to have you understand that there was always coming from love. It was never hatred. It was always love. I will miss having him as my rock. I will miss having him as my voice of reason. And this is quite spectacular that each and every one of you came out here to support him, his family. This is a great way to grieve. Grieve together as friends and family. Most of all, I really miss my friend. I miss his hugs. And I really miss that he always knew the right thing to say. Thank you.